On July 26, 2009, Diane Schuler gets in her minivan along with her daughter, son, and 3 nieces. They're heading back from a fun-filled camping trip back to Westchester, New York. Diane Schuler merges onto the interstate in the wrong direction and drives this way for about a mile until smash. She crashes into a truck head-on, killing a total of 8 people, including herself. The only survivor of this tragic incident is her 5-year-old son, who after several months in intensive care is forced to live the rest of his life with confusion, grief, and just wondering why this happened. And the family members of these innocent victims have to suffer as well. All because Diane Schuler decided to drive drunk. Why would anyone think it's safe to drive under the influence of alcohol? Do you think that drunk drivers consider the consequences and risks that they take when they do so? Probably not, but they should. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, also known as NHTSA, their annual report for 2008 stated that there were close to 11,800 fatalities that were alcohol related, and the drivers of these incidents had a blood alcohol content of 0.08 or higher. After reviewing information from sources such as Mothers Against Drunk Driving and AlcoholAlert.com, I have been able to find evidence to prove why driving under the influence of alcohol should be avoided no matter what. First, I'm going to share some startling statistics and facts about drinking and driving, and this will help you to understand the severity of the issue. And then I will discuss the risks taken and the consequences that will be faced if you choose to drink and drive. And lastly, after I've provided my evidence as to why you should avoid drinking and driving, I will explain why there is absolutely no reason to do so. Let me first share with you some facts and statistics about drinking and driving, all which pertain to the actual drunk driver, the fatalities, and why the public as a whole is affected every time someone makes a decision to drive drunk. Did you know that the state of Virginia in 2008, according to the NHTSA, that we had the 18th highest number of alcohol-related fatalities? So this indeed is startling, considering that out of 50 states, we're the 18th highest, and we had 294 fatalities last year because of alcohol-related incidents. What is extremely horrifying is that a first-time drunk driving offender has driven approximately 87 times on average before even being charged with it. Now, needless to say, just driving drunk one time can kill or injure innocent victims. 50 to 75% of people charged with a DUI or a DWI are continuing to drive on a suspended license, and this is a huge problem. In a survey conducted by AAA in 2008, results revealed that 80% of the people who participated in the survey say that ignition interlock systems should be installed into vehicles of all drunk driving offenders. I want you to think for a moment how many accidents you've heard pertaining to drunk driving and teenagers within the past several years. More than ever before, I'm sure. Now, 92.2% of high school seniors within the United States say that alcohol is easy to get. Therefore, if alcohol is easy to get, then drinking and driving is easy to do for these teenagers. And this is why 18-year-olds account for 5% of all alcohol-related incidents. One of the most significant facts is that alcohol-related crashes in the U.S. cost the public $114 billion in 2008 due to monetary costs and quality of life losses. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but this money could have been spent on restructuring our economy, but instead we're forced to pay for tragic incidents because of drunk drivers. It's not only sad, but unfair. As you can see, the facts I have provided include evidence as to why it is a smart choice to choose not to drink and drive, or to avoid drinking and driving. This brings me to one very important question. Would you be willing to risk basically anything or suffer the harshest consequences just to drink and drive? Let's discuss these risks and consequences that may follow a night of drinking and driving, and then you can answer that question for me. If you choose to drive under the influence of alcohol, you not only risk your own life, you risk other people's lives, innocent victims' lives. Also, you take the risk of being responsible for someone's death, someone's daughter, son, sibling, mother. I know a kid from high school. His name was Jesse. He was in a drunk driving crash, and he killed his best friend. And now he's still, to this day, 5 years later, is still getting professional help because he's living in shame and regret of killing his best friend. As a consequence, you could pay up to $5,000 according to the DUI center, and you could lose your license. It may not stop you from driving, but if it does, then you may not even be able to pick your own kids up from school. And you could also spend years in prison, as we all know, for drinking and driving because it's a felony. 22-year-old Brandy Graff, she's an inmate at an adult corrections institute in Rhode Island, and she killed 2 people, and she's in prison for 8 years. But she quoted at a speech at a Rhode Island high school, 18 years of good memories are insignificant now because I made a bad choice. Doesn't this tell you something? Now that we've discussed the risks and consequences of driving under the influence of alcohol, I want to explain why there is no reasonable excuse or logical excuse to drive under the influence of alcohol. At times, we all make excuses, and at times they are reasonable, but with alcohol and drinking, this is not the case. There's plenty of time to plan how you will get home safely after a night of drinking. You can call a cab, use public transportation, or get a designated driver. You can avoid driving under the influence and preventing crashes. Likely excuses are, I can't afford a cab, or I can't find a designated driver. I don't have public transportation in my area. Well, these are not reasonable or logical excuses because if you can't afford a cab, you don't have public transportation in your area, and you don't have a designated driver, it's in your best interest and everyone else's best interest, and you know this, not to get behind a wheel if you are drunk and not to go out and drink if you can't get home safely and guarantee that you're not going to harm yourself or someone else because of drinking and driving. Let me end by saying that I can't make the decision for anyone but myself to choose not to drink and drive. But I'm hoping after you've heard the story of Diane Schuler and how she killed 8 innocent people, including herself, that it will persuade you to avoid drinking and driving no matter what. As I mentioned previously, there is no reasonable excuse to drive under the influence of alcohol. It is dangerous, life-threatening, and plain out wrong, and I have provided you the evidence to prove it. Thousands of people are living with emotional pain and suffering because they chose to drink and drive, along with the family and friends of innocent victims that they have lost because of those people. Please don't let one of these people be you. Avoid drinking and driving. Thank you for your time and attention.